In June last year, I took a phone call one Sunday evening from a colleague to let me know that Chris Mead, one of the training instructors at work, had suffered a heart attack on his way home from a bike ride and was currently in the BRI in an induced coma. I found out that the person who had given Chris life-saving CPR was James Hart, who was a fellow crewmate and colleague on the lifeboat. I think what impressed me most about James's actions is that although he was first aid trained and is an extremely competent crewman, he was out of the lifeboat scenario. He was coming home from a day shopping with his family. When Chris came back to work in the back end of last year, we sat down and talked about everything that had happened. We decided that James deserved recognition for what he did that day and his actions. I was very pleased earlier this year to receive notification from the Royal Humane Society that they were going to award James with their resuscitation certificate.
At first, you could, on the right hand side, you could make out like a bike wheel, couldn't you? So that's the first one. I said, oh, it looks like a cyclist's been knocked from his bike.
Right.
Because all the cars were stopped in the road, so it just looked, like he'd maybe been hit off or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw 3 men just carrying him across, didn't we, to the side of the road.
I got a cycle up over quite a steep hill, Avon Way. I got pretty near the top and suffered a fatal heart attack. Had what I now know is a collapsed artery. I was told afterwards from the hospital that I was, in all probability, clinically dead before I'd hit the ground.
Wow.
What we both just looked at each other.
I think you shouted at me before.
I looked at you and I said, you need to get
yeah.
out, you know what to do. Then as I moved the car and drove past, I saw what James was doing and just burst into tears.
Oh, goodness.
Shocked him.
Yeah.
I think it was shock.
Yeah.
I think more for James as well, because I just thought, wow, he knows what to do. And I think I knew he knew what to do, but actually physically doing it.
Mm.
And then when I did get there, I did have to stand back for 2 or 3 seconds and just think, right now I gotta do something to help this person. There was a lot of uncertainty, I think, when I got there, of people didn't really know what to do. So it wasn't until I got there, stood back a second, and then acted as I did, that people sort of got the reassurance to do something.
Yeah.
But they were all willing to do something. It's just they didn't have the knowledge of or the up-to-date training of what to do. Yeah, I can remember him being on his side. I don't know if they were going for a recovery position or if I can recall it being mentioned, and that's when I said, hold on a minute, I don't think he's breathing.
Yeah.
I need to check.
So you did a quick check?
Yeah, so then my
No breathing.
sort of training kicked in. It wasn't the danger. I wasn't worried about the danger because he was off the road.
Yeah.
But then it was more of the response, so like shouting to him, seeing if he could hear me, if there was any reaction from him. And then the checks that were taught, so like the airway, the breathing, and you established really quickly that he wasn't breathing, and then I went straight to CPR.
Okay.
So I was led there in the road, and some people who live quite locally in Portishead pulled me to the side of the road. I mean, I was obviously unaware of this. They pulled me to the side of the road and put me in the recovery position. In the traffic, there was a young man there, James Hart, who I'm hoping to be quite good friends with in the not too distant future.
I'm sure you will be.
And
Yeah.
and he was an observer there. He could see what was going on, but he could also see that things weren't quite right. So instead of just sitting in his car, he got out. And it's the action of him getting out of his car and coming to me is the very reason I'm here today. He actually saved my life.
Can you remember what happened when the first responder turned up, Gemma? Can you?
Yeah, I kind of thought, oh, it's okay, James will be able to just get up now, but you didn't, did you? He just said, carry on, because you know what you're doing, and he was in his van, in his car, getting out everything he needed.
Yeah.
And that felt like forever, because I was thinking, oh, you'll be able to stop, it'll be somebody else taking over.
Yeah.
when he got to me, he realised that I wasn't breathing. So he flipped me back over and started CPR straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because he got my circulation going.
Yeah.
There was no heartbeat, and kept the CPR going until an ambulance arrived. That I'm here now. Otherwise, they told me quite clearly in the hospital a few weeks later that had James not started the CPR, that I would almost certainly not have made it, or I would have been virtually a vegetable.
Because at one end I was at his head end and I had the bag valve mask on him,
Yeah.
because the rapid response give us the oxygen, the bag valve mask, and there was people supporting Chris's head, someone holding the mask, someone giving the breaths on the mask,
Yeah.
still doing compressions, and all that was going on whilst the rapid response paramedic was getting his defibrillator.
All of the crew have had training on first aid, including James. We've had 3 ways we've approached it, using external organisations and then our own internal training, which we do regularly every quarter. So first we had with oxygen O2 therapy, how to deal with dealing with people who've had heart failure or are not breathing, how to deal with using oxygen, how to deal with the airways management, and that's we use a private company called AID. We've then, all of the crew, pretty much all the crew have had first aid at sea training, which we use a local sea school, Compass, and the chap who runs that is now on the crew, and he was a paramedic. He was paramedic trained as a search and rescue crewman, so we've had training from him. And then actually, then there's 8 of us, and James and I in particular, who've had training with the RNLI on the RNLI casualty care course, and that was 3 days of real intensity. Using a structure that we have with some cards that we can use, crib cards. But actually what it boils down to, all 3 courses are all around CPR and how you deal with someone with heart failure. So it's something that we train and talk about regularly.
Stuff, but we carry the RNLI casualty check cards on the boat, whereas on the street that's all got to be in your head. So it's just the basics. Part of it was in my head. Obviously I can't remember the whole book, but everything I need to know was in my head, and I went through it how I would, as if it was in front of me. So there wasn't a lot of checks I had to do because he wasn't breathing. As soon as I got to the breathing side of it, I knew then it was CPR all the way. Whereas if he was breathing, I'd have had to go down the list a lot further. So just being put in the environment when I'm the youngest person there, quite clearly, is quite a difficult environment to be in and to take control of.
Yeah.
With strangers that you've just literally met that second as well.
Yeah.
You don't know how they're going to react to you just running in and saying, "We got to do this now."
But I've got to thank this young man once again, because without his intervention and without him making the decision that he did on the day, not to just be an observer but to get involved, I wouldn't be here. I'm eternally grateful to him.
I'm not going to give him his award because I thought the best person to do it was the chap he actually saved. So everybody, this is Chris.
Certificate here from the Royal Humane Society, which I'm very pleased to give to you for what you've done to me. Without James's action on that day, I expect you realise I wouldn't be here now. It's thanks to him and his actions in the few seconds that I had that I'm here. Thank you very much, James. You're very welcome.
Well done.